Today we will talk about XLM and an L2 that I have been paying a lot more attention to, that is Velo. Here is the overall chart, and it doesn't look all that good, right? It's down 98.87%, and its all-time high was about $2.06 according to this, at least. I think it hit a bit higher, but if we change it over to a log chart, then we can see that since about October, it has had a positive uptrend. And I think that that's because of the value of the connections that Velo has. There's a lot of very large people and organizations that are tied into this that are trying to turn it into what I have seen be the SHX or the XRP of Asia. Here is their site, which we will come back to in a bit. But the point that I want to talk about here is how Velo is pioneering a digital ID. And I didn't think that that would be a positive thing at first, because it reminded me of KYC and AML and how that could go in line with a CBDC that would ultimately be programmable in order to control our behavior and actions. But it turns out that they are approaching it a little bit differently, in my opinion, and in my understanding at this point in time. Before that, this is a note on the powerful connections I was talking about, right? So you've got Velo up here and things like Dell here as well. And that's important because the Velo CEO comes from Dell. It also only has 1/4 of the total supply of SHX, which would put us around 25 billion tokens. Here is the article that I was told about Velo's Decentralized IDs. And that they are trying to make identity management easier for a Web 2 to a Web 3 economy transition. And these decentralized IDs are a novel type of a digital ID that is supposed to empower us to control our online IDs without relying on centralized corporations. It would enable us to retain ownership of our information, identity, and accounts, and it's all kept on chain. So how do they work? Well, it's essentially our identity information that is hashed, and then that ends up on chain. So the DID files themselves are a JSON file, which is basically Python, that contains information about the DID, including public keys, authentication protocols, and service endpoints for communication. It is then kept on a decentralized network, which improves the security of the online ID. Now, as far as the applications of this, it does have more obvious ones, but there are some things that will be new or different in a Web 3 economy compared to what we are accustomed to today. So ID control. DIDs provide a more secured and privy alternative compared to the run-of-the-mill digital IDs. It can be used for Web 2 as well as with IoT and even for official government documents. The approach restricts access to those who own and hold it, or only for third parties, to the transaction or data access, which essentially means that we would actually be able to control who has access into our digital ID information. Secure data sharing. Autonomy over our information can be kept in our hands, and we would have a digital key that allows us to choose who can access our information and can be adjusted at any time. Now, it does talk about how it would play a role in DeFi as well, which is particularly around the existing KYC process and how the DID would eliminate the need for a single point of authority, unlike centralized exchanges and traditional finance platforms at this point in time, because they are not controlled by a single authority like a bank or a corporation. They are rather on chain, which is like a super secure digital ledger, and it makes it harder for bad actors and malicious forces to impersonate your ID or take others' information. And it does also toss out a healthcare thing, which I thought was interesting. But in my own experience in life, having easy access to all of your health information over time is very hard to do at this point in time. It is practically impossible because, in my experience, the entire healthcare industry likes to think that they own your health information. I don't really know why, but that's what they think. So, with any tool that can provide easier access and more controlled access to healthcare information, I mean, I think it's a good idea. And if we look in the Velo white paper, it talks a lot about know your business and know your customer, but it talks about anonymous chain interoperability. So the Velo Identity Framework is a unique solution combining KYC and KYB verification on top of anonymous interactions on chain. So it also has a Velo Identity Framework, which introduces an anonymous blockchain layer that enables pseudonymous interactions via encryption techniques and privacy preserving protocols. So it really does sound as if they are trying to approach this in the right way and not for just an online KYC process that would be something like I would expect to see with the rollout of a CBDC. I guess overall, this approach opens up opportunities in the decentralized space where our interactions with smart contracts can meet regulatory requirements for ID verification.